This slide was simply just an outline really of what I'm going to cover very briefly. And this will cover a period of first quarter reporting, January to March of this year. So the first quarter, so the first topic of reporting is operations. Overall, we're showing a total of call volume for Port Alberni this year by year for the last 5 years. You'll see a little bit of fluctuation, decrease, increase, decrease. And right now we're on pace for a call volume that'll come just under 14,000 for the year. This quarter alone, our call volume has seen an increase of 3.45%. And you can see that we're up from 2863 to 2965 as of this reporting. Curfew checks, which could easily be defined as proactive policing, which is something that we would get around to doing when we have the time to do so. In the first quarter for January 2025, in January, we conducted 270 curfew checks, and that number diminished as we move into the spring because of our increasing call volume and calls for service. So for this reporting, we have 453 that were conducted. As compared to last year, 310. So there's definitely the appetite to get out there and do them when we can. It's just that we aren't always able to complete that as time goes on. Of those curfew checks that are conducted, 15 to 20 can easily result in breaches of conditions occurring. These breaches necessitate added work on our members because they add work to the existing caseload. They need to prepare reports to Crown, and they need to forward this in an ambition to pursue charges against those persons who are in the community and not abiding by the conditions that were imposed on them. For traffic enforcement, again, this is a proactive, oh, did I skip ahead? Traffic enforcement is another area of proactive policing, solely a proactive effort that I documented here, defined as the issuance of violation tickets and warnings by your Port Alberni members. This doesn't include impaired driving or immediate roadside prohibitions as reflected in next slides by area. Nor does this stat capture motor vehicle incidents, hit and runs, property damage over 10,000, etc. So just based on violation tickets and verbal warnings to anyone that's stopped roadside, we're at that works better. Thank you. So for traffic enforcement in this last quarter, we're looking at 181 as compared to last year at 322. And I should add that where we can, we leverage BC Highway Patrol to come into the Port Alberni area and to help us with that enforcement piece. This is a reflection of City of Port Alberni, where we have total calls in the first quarter at 2406 as compared to 2350 from last year, same time period. I can report that impaired drivers were taken off the road by way of suspension or criminal charge were 75 in the city, 31 in the ACRD region, 5 in the First Nations area, for a total of 111. And as stated, as Port Alberni does not have a dedicated traffic section populated by traffic members, proactive efforts fall to our frontline officers to take on this enforcement effort when their time permits. Port Alberni enjoys the added enforcement of BC Highway Patrol, who attempts to provide focused enforcement as well. However, they are on a scheduled patrol rotation as well, so they service other police jurisdictions. Within the City of Port Alberni, the biggest increase has been seen in assaults, sex offenses, and drug offenses. There have been some decreases in domestic violence and theft offenses, but I would be hesitant to see that as a win because even though the numbers have reduced, it's still higher than desired. In the first quarter, total mental health related calls are 207. Of these, 50 were apprehensions made at a rate of 24.15%. In 2025, we're at 188 with 38 apprehensions, which is equivalent to a 20.21% apprehension rate. I wrote here in my notes that often that these calls don't come in as explicitly mentally health related, but will more likely come in as offense related calls for service as in progress events that later become attributed to mental health. Anticipated hospital wait times can influence apprehension considerations. For instance, if an officer, we're not clinicians, we're not doctors, and we're certainly not practitioners of any sort, our criteria for apprehension is danger to self or others. In which case, if we feel a subject meets any one of those criteria pieces, we will then, our obligation is then to apprehend them and take them to hospital where they're put in front of somebody who can make that further determination for their safety. This is where having a crisis car model would be helpful in triaging those most in need and bypassing lengthy wait times so that our officers can be on the street. For the ACRD region, we're up 358 calls from 336 reported this same time last year. Again, domestic violence, sex offenses, assault would be on the top tier of reporting for this area as well. Immediate roadside prohibition. So in the last two slides with ACRD and First Nations, there is no, I didn't add the mental health calls here because I captured them under the City of Port Alberni grid. And for the purposes of the way we score files, it would be City of Port Alberni time that is consumed by our officers at the West Coast General Hospital where they're taken. Further to this slide is that we have an Indigenous police section comprised of 4 members, and they deploy regularly to meet with band, council, and community members. Activities that they've reported on in this period include coffee with a cop, visitation to all schools, working closely with partners in USMA, ADAPS, and connecting with youth and vulnerable people. Again, I hearken back to the basketball game that was that we had with them. And right now they have bike rodeos slated in the spring with canoeing and cultural trips to the Broken Group. Last year, for the purposes of 2024, I had asked how many restorative justice referrals were made from that unit alone. And I was told that it was between 4 and 6 and all assault related. So our Port Alberni crime rate, I've captured it here, pulled straight from the Police Resources Guide that's available on open source query, government publication. And for the last 10 years, you can see how the City of Port Alberni's crime rate and the rural crime rate has increased over the last 10 years. And I have here that in 2023, the average provincial crime rate was 65 reported crimes per 1,000 population. And the average rate for BC municipal RCMP policing jurisdictions over 15,000 was 85. So the city's crime rate right now here in Port Alberni is 179, which is more than double, and the provincial area's crime rate was 47. From this, you could easily infer that your officers are working twice as hard as their peer counterparts at in other policing jurisdictions, and their caseload is at 104. Which is 2 files more than Prince George, coming in at 102. And Prince George has a crime rate of 185. Their established strength of members is 149 with an operating budget nearly 4 times that of Port Alberni. With Port Alberni's crime rate being at 179, we're operating with 34 municipal members, 10 provincial members, 4 IPS members with a complement of 48 total that is doing equivalent work or on par work. I have here that this is supported by Stats Canada measure of police reported crime that considers both volume and severity of the crime. And according to Stats Canada, Port Alberni has a crime severity index score of 137 with a national mark being 70. Crime trends published by PSB shows Port Alberni's violent offenses at 773. That's both municipal and provincial. where our nearest neighbors, Nanaimo, are around 2,800 with an authorized strength of 161. Campbell River closes in at 1,400 with an authorized strength of 49. North Cowichan Duncan is hovering just over 600 with an authorized strength of 32, but they come in at 68 total with a provincial and city complement. So at 773 and 48 officers, they're very pressured. They're working very hard. Open source checks also show Port Alberni is reputed to be one of the most dangerous communities on Vancouver Island, and that 1 in 9 persons in Port Alberni is at risk of becoming a victim of crime. I have in my records, having made queries with our headquarters, that according to records, the last time Port Alberni Detachment had an increase to establishment was in 2021 when an RM position was reallocated from West Coast Marine to Port Alberni. This was and is a provincial position. Prior to this, the last time Port Alberni had an increase to establishment was in 2006, where we gained a First Nations policing position. As far as new regular member positions created on a municipal level, this was last done in 2004, which was 21 years ago. So for 21 years, Port Alberni's municipal strength has remained static at 34, while the policing landscape has become increasingly dangerous, complex, and challenging. This is our forensic identification section, stats for 2024. These stats reflect every call that occurred and was attended within FIS's jurisdiction. And you can see here, they cover Port Alberni, Oceanside, Tofino, Ucluelet, and Qualicum Beach. In the main, these are attended by 1 or more of 3 trained members that are posted right in the Port Alberni detachment. The only exceptions to who might otherwise also attend with them are reserve constable coverage or whenever Nanaimo assists, but the stats generated for these instances are included here. We have 130 calls, over 130 calls, sorry, coming in for Port Alberni, over 50 for Oceanside, around 10 for Tofino Ucluelet, 4 Qualicum Beach, with the bulk of all of their work being right here in Port Alberni.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit pause for a second. Could we have a motion to continue the presentation? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Director Johnson. All those in favor? The motion carried. Please continue.
Continuing with Port Alberni forensic identification stat totals broken down. We have Port Alberni at 20 versus 15, 2, and 1 for the other police jurisdictions. Port and prisoners. So Port Alberni's report to Crown submissions are second only to Nanaimo when comparing stats against neighboring detachments. This is a 70% increase compared to 2024, an increase of 115 cases from last year, this same time of reporting. Nanaimo has 3 port liaison officers, while Port Alberni, despite its jumps in caseload, it continues to exist with 1 port liaison officer. Of detachments of similar size, Comox, Duncan, and Campbell River, they're all showing increases about 40 to 50 cases themselves. But so certainly nowhere near the 115 jump that we've seen. Prisoner totals will have appeared to have decreased. And I can tell you that our officers are making decisions in real time every day about whether or not to lodge lodge prisoners at all, because of the lengthy process that takes officers off the road for periods of time. With ever increasing calls, often necessitating priority response, I can tell you that when there's 2 members on the road and 2 in cells trying to lodge a prisoner, those members will elect to either drop that prisoner and release on paper very quickly with conditions that will be entered on a system for enforcement later in deference to making sure that their fellow officers are safe. So that's why you're not seeing the prisoner counts being as high. The other consideration, pardon me, that officers make is to go no process at all. They will catch and release, if you will, where they will simply arrest somebody, and if they don't have the time to deal with them, they will release them again in deference to officer safety or other priority calls. which and buying themselves additional investigational time to adduce evidence worthy of warrant requests later. It is really only the most egregious investigations that will incite offenders to be lodged and held for bail hearings. Whereas in other communities, and again, as I state earlier, this is my 11th post, with most of my service having been to a more recent time in the last 20 years, having been conducted in the Lower Mainland. When you have sufficient officers on the road that can deal with persons in real time and take their time, these the dangerous people will be taken off the road, lodged appropriately, and prevented from committing any continuation of offense through that shift or in days to come. But right now, that's just not our reality. That sums up my presentation.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, thank you for your presentation. I did have a question for clarity. I may have missed it. Folks who are kind of put in a like aren't put in jail, they're released for the safety of the officers in the office or out in the field.
So I don't want there to exist a paradigm in your mind that suggests that we are always catching and releasing. Where we can have the time, and we do take the time. There is just simply process and protocol that necessitates that. But quite honestly, if I'm tied up with a prisoner, and I'm putting myself as an example as the officer on the street, if I'm tied up with a prisoner, that makes me unavailable to the other ones that are out there that might need me for a priority response. And so it's in those situations where they're faced with the moral dilemma of saying, do I release this person, no process? So they're risk assessing all the time. Or do I release them on conditions to buy myself the time to gain further evidence to get a warrant request later or to deal with them in court later? Or can they survive on their own to go and deal with that priority response so that I can go and appropriately lodge this prisoner? In a perfect situation, you want your officers not to be put in that risk assessment situation. You want them to be able to say, nope, I've arrested somebody. I'm going to take them back. I'm going to process them the way they need to be processed and not, for lack of a better phrase, dump and run.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions? Director Haggard and then Director Roth.
Thank you, Chair Jack. Thank you so much, Inspector Bruce. I just need some clarification. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but I just wondered if you could clarify something that I heard about mental health calls from the regional district being attributed to city time because they're at the West Coast General Hospital and that time is attributed to the city. I wasn't sure if I heard you correctly about that or if I heard it wrong.
That's the way I interpret it, because it's generally members that have made that apprehension that are spending their time in the city at the hospital, waiting to be released once the doctor has made an assessment of the individual brought before them. So that's why I counted it in the city stat reporting, is because we're not sitting at some remote hospital elsewhere.
Thank you. Next up, we have Director Boyko and then Director Steer.
Thank you, Chair. I thought you had a couple other people ahead of me, but I'll go ahead if that's okay. What are we doing for repeat offenders? Is there a lot of these people? Are we having a problem with the court system that they get released and we have these things keep repeating? And I got one more question after that. Thank you.
The short answer is yes, we do have a lot of the same faces and the same personalities that are coming before us that we're dealing with. I don't have a stat to suggest exactly what that number is, but there's a great familiarity for a number of the persons that we're dealing with in the everyday.
Perfect. Second question is, you had one slide there that showed a difference between the city and regional areas in per capita. So the latest data is 2023, but basically overall, city per capita is basically 4 times higher than what the rural areas per capita is. Is that a correct assumption?
Are you referring to crime rate?
Yes, I can tell you what slide it is actually. It's about 3 slides ago. Port Alberni crime rate, yes. So per capita, per 1,000 people, 179 in the city, and the rural area is 47. So that's about 4 times higher, correct?
Yeah, roughly
Plus
that
or-
would be the number.
Plus
yeah.
or minus. Okay, thank you very much.
right, thank you. Director Steer, you're next, and then Director Becker.
Thank you through the chair. And thank you for your comprehensive report today. I had a question regarding, and it might be out the scope of your work, but looking at the very high rates, and in some cases provincially outstandingly high, and I'm wondering if there's been any identification of the underlying causes for that. And I think of some of the social determinants of health. And I'm wondering if you would have any insight into what might be the causes of such a high crime rate within our Alberni Valley area.
Thank you. So of course, I don't know exactly what the determinants of crime are. I mean, I've been here 9 months. I can go by the reports that I see, the investigations that I review, the feedback that I get from members on the street, certainly the crime type activity that consumes most of our time. I would point to substance abuse as being a large problem in this community.
Thank you. And when you, in determining in terms of, I noted in some of your crime reports that alcohol-related offenses as well as impaired driving. And I'm wondering, in terms of substance, you're including not just the toxic drugs that we're well aware of, but certainly alcohol being involved in many of those incidences.
No, I'm not just referring to alcohol. I'm referring to drugs. There's a prevalence of trafficking that's occurring here. Of course, I can't speak to the sensitive nature of those investigations, but we have executed warrants where we have some very significant persons that are in the community that are committing egregious crimes relative to drugs and drug trafficking. And then you have the power-based crimes that go in hand with that sort of activity, right? Where you have, say, young, vulnerable youth or females or even young males that are being, it's the quid pro quo of sexual activity for drugs or having other people undertake those activities on their behalf. There's a lot that's going on with respect to substance abuse.
Thank you for that. Next up, I have Directors Beckett and then Director Cote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Inspector Bruce, thank you for your presentation. I represent Area A, Bamfield, and I'm wondering with future presentations by yourself or staff, if you could from time to time provide some stats on the individual electoral areas. So in particular, I'm interested in Bamfield and how that looks. And then my second comment or question is with respect to the Bamfield Road, the improvements to the road, the increased traffic that we're seeing, and because it's not a provincial recognized road, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you comment on road safety and the policing of that as a potential deterrent to those who are not traveling it safely? Thank you.
Yes, so it's not recognized as a provincial road. Therefore, BC Highway Patrol is not providing any enforcement, but we have seen an increase in the volume of traffic that occurs down to Bamfield. And certainly we've had some serious motor vehicle incidents, whether it's motorcycles or vehicles going off-road right. We had vehicles that were washed out through the winter where we so had some fatalities. So keeping an eye on that, I'll be sure to include that in my next reporting. But yeah, we've tried to leverage, because we can't commit resources to conducting traffic enforcement there, except through our IPS units who are on the regular patrols down there. Yeah, I've had that conversation with BC Highway Patrol and they're not able to provide that.
Thank you for that. Next up, I have Directors Cote and then Director Minions.
Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you so much for coming and reporting to us. It's really important that we continue our good connection with our CMP and learning about our communities. So further information breaking down each area would be valuable to the directors on this board. Just like to really say thank you to all the members. Please pass that along. that the regional district really appreciates the work that you do. Understanding the impacts of the drug and abuse that's happening within our communities is important. I think that good understanding of that at the board is important for us to make good decisions. With our budgets, I know that we'll be looking at our grant and aids very soon, and that may play a part in it, where we want to spend our tax dollars, or our community's tax dollars. Just wanted to know, it doesn't sound like you're going to have any extra availability of officers to be able to patrol Sprout Lake or Great Central Lake at all. In the past, we've had volunteers that have come forward from the RCMP through work to do a couple of patrols on Sprout Lake. The presence is really important to keep drinking down on the lake and regulations so that people are not abusing their freedom on the lake. So just, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I can comment that seasonal policing, we get a seasonal policing budget. I believe last year's was $20,000. And with that money, we are able to stand up folks to come in on overtime and provide that enforcement for Sprout Lake and other identified areas where we have events going on in the city. But you can imagine that we go through that money very, very quickly.
Thank you. I have Director Minions and then I'll have last comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to provide a brief comment here, and I guess note also that we have had this presentation at the city, and we did have an extensive conversation about resourcing and where we're at, obviously, at the city. So I didn't want to sit here quietly when obviously the vast majority of this topic is in regards to the growing crime and the shift that's happened over a long period of time in the city of Port Alberni. So I thought it was important to note that we have contributed to the conversation already. But Inspector Bruce, I just wanted to thank you for coming and presenting here today. And I just wanted to say as well that I really like the style of the report that you've presented. In the past, we've had a pretty standard kind of form for the information that we've received. And I think that this is actually significantly more informative to get a good understanding of what's going on. And lastly, just because, a lot of this was about resourcing, I think it is important to note that we very clearly need more RCMP resources in the Valley to deal with the level of crime that we're dealing with. But balancing that, where we are certainly under-resourced, it's important to note that the city of Port Alberni actually has the highest cost of policing per capita in the province. So we are in a very challenging position where we know we need more resources, and we really struggle to afford them with our taxes where they are. So yeah, it's a really tough position to be in, but we definitely hear the need and are just always trying to look for ways to support without necessarily adding more resources. More officers directly. Thank you.
Thank you. So on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I had one, I don't know if it was a question or a comment. I remember several years ago that the RCMP were conducting meetings with various chiefs and councils of the New Channel Tribal Council in the area, giving an update on the status of gang activity and the way that it was affecting Indigenous youth in the area and beyond. And I'm wondering if it was possible, I guess it is a question, to have another update in regards to any progress that has been made, or if it was dropped at some point between the different OICs. And as a result, I think part of the interest here is, can we provide more information to not just the ACRD in the city, but also to Indigenous leaders to help be a part of this? If resourcing is an issue, Indigenous leaders can be a voice with the federal government as well as with the provincial government. And I think we can create quite a coalition there in regards to dealing with it. The other item relating to the gang activity update was that it was purported that a previous OIC was going to engage with the Surrey gang unit on getting consultations, but not necessarily knowing where the money would come from. And therefore, that idea may have actually fallen by the wayside. Is that something that we should continue looking at, especially when it comes to drug charges and drug activity? It seems like organized crime would be a part of that. And it's not just prolific offenders with mental health issues, it has to be other things as well. So I'd be interested in knowing what the members and your thoughts are on the nature of the challenges so that we can go for the appropriate resources. And I'll be kind of singing off the same song sheet. And yeah, Director Minions, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to further comment, because I forgot to, that the city has gone to UBCM every year for almost the last 10 years, I think, and asked for additional provincial resources to be added, because obviously that's what UBCM has impact in. And once I've done that with the ACRD, as a joint request, but the city has gone every year asking that of the minister. And I would love to see the regional district lead that process. It doesn't cost the regional district anything extra to ask for more provincial resources to be added to our area. So yeah, just putting that out there. It's something that we can ask for as a meeting at UBCM, and I think would be very impactful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, certainly, to the time of my arrival, I was briefed about the activities relative to OIC Inspector Eric Rochette, now Superintendent of Nanaimo. Before that, there was Inspector Brian Hunter. I can tell you that in the time between Inspector Rochette's departure and my arrival, there was an acting inspector, Staff Sergeant Mike Thompson, who was running Port Alberni. During Mike's tenure, there was the arrival of the outlaw motorcycle gang here to Port Alberni. So that is, when you speak to gang activity, if that's what you're referring to, that's what I'm alive to.
From what I understand, there were also Indigenous youth gangs coming into the fore at the high school level and slightly beyond that age group as well. So yeah, the outlaws are certainly a head and shoulders level of organization above that. But I think that's what the Indigenous communities were getting updates on, was the kind of youth gang activity. But either way, they seem like they could be related or dangerously related. So yeah.
Agreed. So there is some dangerous relation there. And without having brought that information with me today to report on, I can certainly put that on the agenda for next time. But yes, there is a nexus, and there is some reporting that can be done there. I can tell you that the investigations around these issues are highly sensitive and often require innovative investigational techniques to advance the investigations into those areas. But with respect to nature of the challenges, because we are resource strapped, operating often at capacity, or over capacity. What I have done is teamed with other island commanders, and where I can, I will cost share the arrival of a uniform gang enforcement team. Recently, we had Mercules. It was a concert that came to town, and in advance of that concert, we had engaged some extra resources to come in and did a cost sharing for that event, knowing that the crowd and the audience at that kind of concert would incite. So doing all we can to leverage the available resources that we have. There is going to be costs that are incurred as a result of that to alleviate the pressures and allow our members to operate at the capacities that they are on the everyday, so that we can address these increased demands. But the truth is that we are taxed in doing that, and so we have to. It's always requiring us to be innovative on who we engage to come and help us with those issues.
Thank you. Director Cote, quickly.
Thank you. On a much later note, I'm sure that ACRD staff will be reaching out to you. We hire 4 students annually for the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol. And we try to establish a really good connection between the patrol and the RCMP. Just wanted to heads up that. Thank you.
if I may add to that a little bit, is that I can offer that we're going to have a vessel, RCMP vessel at the quay for the greater portion of the summer. The vessel is called Lindsay. It's a West Coast Marine vessel, and they're going to be here providing enforcement to all of the West Coast communities here. If ever we need them, we can engage them. They've offered that to us. So.
On behalf of the board, thank you for your presentation and for answering our questions. Look forward to seeing you again.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, our next up is no strange face to any of us. I'd like to invite our MLA, Minister Josie Osborne, to the podium. I don't know if there's anything else needed, but please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I won't take up very much of your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to come. It's my first time to come formally before the Regional District Board since the provincial election that took place in October. So I thought it would be good just to come and touch on some of the services that my office provides to constituents and talk a little bit about the importance of the relationship between the MLA and the local governments, like the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. So first of all, some good news, our riding did not change in the last election in terms of boundaries, with the exception of one road near Parksville. So it still encompasses all the way from Hot Springs Cove down through Nachalmouth territory on the west coast, all the way down to Nitnat to Ditidat territory, and then westward through the Alberni Valley into Qualicum Bay, and then north up the island, all the way up to Hornby and Denman Island, Cumberland as well. So Fanny Bay, Union Bay, all the bays, and then kind of carves out Qualicum and Parksville are in Ladysmith Oceanside riding now. And then we kind of dip down into just near Parksville, but not quite, down near the commercial vehicle inspection station on Highway 19 that most people know. So yeah, it's a big riding, and we have over 60,000 people who live in this riding, and about a third live here in the Alberni Valley, and probably close to half live within the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. So we have 3 school districts, 3 regional districts, 4 municipalities, and 13 First Nations encompassed inside this region. And so I try to get out to the leadership of all of those places over the course of the 4 years. And the relationship that I have with you as the regional district is really, really important to me. So having had my own local government experience, of course, I understand you really are closest to the ground, whether you're First Nations or electoral areas or municipality, you are the people that constituents come to and sometimes blame for every problem that they have, but also you're really effective conduits of information. And I really rely on your knowledge and expertise in your own communities for bringing issues forward to me. And as you do your strategic planning as a local government, for example, that really helps me in determining what priorities to be able to really advocate for and take forward to the provincial government. As far as constituents go, we provide a lot of different services to individual constituents. So just the way somebody will come on off the street and they'll come up to the front counter and talk to Tracy and explain their issue and then talk to regional district staff, we do the same kind of services and problem solving for constituents. And it is everything that has to do with a provincially provided service. So there's some cards being handed out right now that explain some of the services we provide. But really, we help people with things like driver's licenses and ID. We help people who have issues with BC Hydro bills, for example. People on income assistance that are applying for different programs, rent supplements, people experiencing challenges dealing with ICBC. We receive a lot of highway and road complaints and suggestions. So everything from, potholes and paving that's required on electoral district area roads to discussions around the Highway 4 and secondary routes out of the valley, for example. A lot of questions around the difference between a provincial highway and a Forest Service road, issues around access onto Crown land, BC Parks issues, BC Ferries issues, tenancy issue. So if a person is experiencing issues with their landlord and they've asked you for assistance, you please feel free to send them to our office, to the MLA office. And I have two fantastic constituency advisors, Andrea McDonald, who's here in the room with me, and then also Britt Chalmers, who works almost full-time as well, in addition to Andrea, helping people with these kinds of issues. We also get a lot of inquiries around healthcare. So, and that it has increased with my new role as the Minister of Health. And some are issues that we send down to Victoria, but others are issues that we can deal with in the MLA office. So please let people know to reach out to us. It's really, really rewarding when we're able to help people resolve their issues or problems and help them find solutions. And it happens on a really regular basis. And so that's a really important part of the work. Then as far as, again, your work as a regional district lobbying for policy changes, regulatory changes, legislative changes at the provincial level, I'm here to be your voice on that and to continue to advance those. It's always good to hear about what you're taking to UBCM, and I can help provide assistance in connecting to different ministers and getting meetings arranged that way. And as well, just taking forward a lot of the issues that we've talked about in previous meetings and opportunities around tariff response, around highways, around healthcare, things that are, the forestry sector and impacts in the downturn of that sector. But this morning I had the opportunity to be at the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce and talk a bit more broadly around some of the provincial initiatives that are happening. And I just want to repeat something that I said to the Chamber of Commerce, and that is that Port Alberni, the Alberni Valley, has a real can-do attitude and has a reputation within the provincial government as a YIMBY community, a yes in my backyard community. And clearly, we just heard a lot about some of the challenges in policing and some of the underlying issues around social determinants of health, everything from income and poverty, lack of access to housing, healthcare services, education, and everything that drives a lot of the social situations that we're experiencing here. And the work that you do to support people, and that the way that local governments work and support social service organizations, working closely with the city, with emergency responders, it really shows what a big heart the Alberni Valley has. And I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do as local leaders. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Open for comments or questions? Director Haggard, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Jack. I'm working with the group and they asked me about any potential grants that might be eligible for. So I thought, I'm going to contact Josie's office. And in less than 24 hours, I had a response, which I thought was absolutely amazing. So I want to thank your staff for doing that tremendously quick turnaround time. It made me look really good to this group. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thanks for that. Yeah, we do grant surges through the legislative library, and we provide a lot of letters of support for organizations that are applying for provincial funding, including the regional district.
Great. Next up, I have Director Boyko.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we just heard about policing and now we're hearing about health. Are anybody looking at the correlations between mental health, policing, safe injection sites, all this kind of stuff coming together in the Port Alberni Valley? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Director Boyko. I think, again, this is where the kind of community collaboration that we see through organizations like the Community Action Team are really important, so that local governments and provincial agencies and local social service organizations are together sharing information. There are clearly well demonstrated links between all of these things that you have listed, Director Boyko. And I think that's why it's important to always be making evidence-based informed decisions around policy and actions, and taking that very holistic view of everything that's being done in the Alberni Valley around supportive housing and affordable housing, for example, ties in with the education system and access for children and youth to mental health programs, for example, having a foundry coming to Port Alberni and the Alberni Valley in the next year or so is going to be a really phenomenal lift, I think, in terms of access for youth to some of the healthcare services and mental health services that they require. but there's clearly more work to be done. And that's both in terms of access to treatment and recovery, but also housing and other ways of supporting people.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Dr. Cote, then Dr. Sparrow.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Josie Osborne, for coming and talking to us. We appreciate all the work that you do for our community. You know our community very well. And just thanks for coming early. So a few of the conversations that we had earlier are really you can see what we're facing these days with issues. And I know that you'll be working with us. So just want to say thank you.
Thanks very much.
You and your staff.
Dr. Sparrow?
Thank you. And before I leave on a lighter note, because, you know, just heavy topics today, but you're saying about potholes and that, and I get a request from people in my area. Well, the trucks coming down the hump at nighttime being loud and keeping the brakes. They said, we'll put a sign up saying, we have no policy or like that. But you know, I'm gonna write out to Modi, and I probably want to write to you too, just saying, hey, put a sign up saying, knock off the noise at nighttime with the trucks. It's a quick hitter.
Yeah,
Easy
please
to-
do. Please do. Yeah, contact our office and then we can reinforce that message to Modi as well. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good.
All right. On behalf of the board, thank you for your presentation. I just had one question, and I think it has to do with, it's kind of tied together with the holistic approach to what we've been talking about, the challenges. There's an economic development component as well as a poverty reduction component. I seem to remember that there was a kind of a jurisdiction, multi-jurisdiction poverty reduction working group. Is that something that there's still momentum behind or interest in? I guess it depends on the outcome of the election.
Yeah, that is a great question. And that was really community driven, that had the local governments and First Nations in particular working together. And that was through the Friendship Center, I believe. So I think that might be a great question for all of us to ask. I know that the province was pleased to be sitting at that table. And I think that, I mean, again, like that is the kind of collaboration I think we really do need to see. And what I have definitely seen in my time as an MLA is that, you know, top-down solutions are never going to be the only answer. We have to have those really community-driven organizations and solutions that are coming forward. And it's really important for us to meet in the middle. So willing partners at the table to be able to do this work, that's absolutely essential.
I have one more thing. Please extend my thanks to Minister Green for the engagement that's been happening on EDMA, the
I will.
Emergency Disaster Management Act. It's been quite well done. It's just something that I really noticed.
I will pass that on. Thank you for that. Okay.
All right, thank you
you,
for coming.
everybody. Nice to see you again.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That brings us into the next agenda items, first of which is correspondence for action, of which there is none. The next up is item 7, correspondence for information. There's only 2 items, one regarding cooperative community wildlife response and one for Disaster Smart. Would anyone like to pull anything out or just make a motion to receive? Thank you, Dr. Roth.
I'll make a motion to receive.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Any further comment? You see none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 8, which is request for decisions and bylaws. First up is Jenny with the custom transit expansion for Tishot. And please take enough time for me to fill up my coffee.
I will speak slowly. This report is to look at expanding our custom service to include the Shot First Nation. So if you were in the ABB meeting this morning, you would have gotten an overview on our Handy Dart service, which services the electoral areas in Port Alberni within the Alberni Valley. What this will do, we had interest from the Shot First Nation and they came to us. We've spoken with BC Transit and looked at this internally. We are able to basically expand the service to allow them to access those hours that we have within the custom service. And we would do that through a direct service agreement. So they would pay for a portion of the service through a service agreement, and then community members within the area will access custom transit. We will basically monitor and enforce or process this as we do with all of our other clients and community users. And if the board approves this, we will make sure that we've got approval from chief and council and then proceed with a service agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Director Haggard, then Director Cote.
I'm very happy to see this moving forward, and I may I make the motion?
Yep.
I'd like to move that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors approve a service agreement with the Shashot First Nation to provide custom transit services to the Shashot Reserve and authorize the chief and administrative officer to negotiate and execute a transit service agreement with Shashot First Nation on behalf of the ECRD.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Cote. And comment?
Thank you. I totally see that this is a needed service for Tishat community. They're always catching the bus and I see them walking on the road as I drive by. I think that it's very much needed. But with the conversation that we had earlier today at the AVN Downfield, no, yeah, AVB committee, looking at the cost, I'm seeing that this would probably be an increase to the Sprout Lake level of resources to help to make this part of the service when in reality, I'm basically, I understand what this service is and the importance of it, but it's getting out costed. Just way too much for Sprout Lake residents when we're not utilizing this service. So I do approve of this, but possibly be looking at Sprout Lake trying to get out of this service. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Cote. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I share very similar concerns to what Director Cote has recently said and based on conversations this morning as well. Beaufort doesn't use the custom transit at all. And I've talked to the people about it and there's basically no need or people look after themselves. When I look at what's being expected for the Tishat people to pay and then population wise compared to what the Beaufort population is, I don't see the numbers adding up as equal contributors. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Yes, so I can speak to the financial portion. So unfortunately, and Terry, please feel free to jump in, because we have no land and improvement values available within the Shashot community, we were not able to use that as the apportionment model. So we really looked at the other option which is available, which is population. And so we did it as an equivalent population, which worked out to approximately 2.28%. And then that was the allocation. So the one upside is that there will be a reduced cost to everyone who's paying into the service. And proportionally, it is a small population. And one of the things that was discussed this morning at the committee is that, you know, what does help is having more users on the system, which increases efficiency, right, and economies of scale. The other one I did want to note, which does speak to the finance, that was an insight that I gleaned from this morning, was that a question was raised about, you know, why is it that there are some electoral areas that do not have people accessing the custom transit system? And the answer is that, well, as people age and their mobility becomes limited, the electoral areas and the far rural areas are simply not conducive to be living there. So I think of myself, I live in the electoral area, I'm very mobile right now, and I'll be there for another 30 or 40 years. But when my mobility reduces, I will be moving to the city, and that's when I'll be using HandyDART. From my perspective, I do want to be able to access HandyDART. And so I think that it is worth for me to continue to contribute to that service my entire lifetime so that when I do need it, it's available. That's just one contextual model I'd like to, you know, remind everyone of when we're thinking of HandyDART, is that the people who use it might live for a very long time in areas, but then access it in other areas when they need it.
Thank you. I would remind the directors that we're talking about the Tishat expansion, and if we want to have a conversation around other transit related conversations, we can have an agenda item for that, potentially as a committee of the whole, just to have a more wide ranging conversation. Dr. Sparrow, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to echo what the two EA directors said regarding the costing because we're doing it on population. And my question is, transit right now, is it based on population or population and improvements?
It's based on land and improvements.
Yeah, it's based on land improvements. That's the problem we're having here. We're not saying no, we're saying actually saying yes. The problem is the way we're building out. And that is, if we did it all by population, then would all be equal, or that's not going to be equal because it depends on a bunch of factors behind that. But still, because we're doing it by improvements and they don't have an area they can tax, it's not looking as equal as it should. And that's the problem we're having. Not the service. We all want to agree the service is good. It should be done. It's just the cost it's getting to us. That's all.
Thank you for that. Before we get to Dr. Cote, this will be her second time speaking. Are there any other speakers? Not seeing any. Dr. Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. In the earlier presentation, regarding, the expansion service to Tishat First Nation, expansion resources subject to change. There's a suggestion that there may be one bus may be required, an extra bus, so to expand the service. So that's sort of a concern because that's going to be cost for buying another bus to add to the service to be able to accommodate expansion. So I just have questions around things like that.
Yeah, my reading of it was that we were going to figure that out while we expanded. And if we didn't end up needing it, we wouldn't do it. And if we did end up needing it, but we didn't want to, we would just stop servicing to Shot. I think those were the options that were implied. I don't know that it was exact that way. Jenny, go ahead.
And I think that also that's that's for the conventional transit service. So for custom, we would use the existing hours that we already have allocated. So doing this addition will not. It will, it means that the fixed number of hours we've already approved and we're already paying for will be shared among more people, but not that we're adding more buses or any more hours. So there will be no additional cost, just a minor reduction to the other participants.
I think the conventional transit conversation is a bit different though. So we might need to have a wider conversation because I think it is all connected. Yeah. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, the next item is item 8B regarding welcome to Alberni Valley Highway sign. And I think this is still Jenny. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so we have $10,000 allocated in the 2025 budget to do refurbishment of the Welcome to Alberni Valley Highway sign. That is available and we can proceed with that if that was what the board would like. We also did look at some options. If we were going to move forward with that, we've given an optional recommendation to engage with Hubishesit and Sashat First Nation to ensure that we're doing suitable land acknowledgements. We've also added an option to remove and dispose of the sign. We've considered this because there is the new sign that has recently been installed at Walmart, as well as the Discover Alberni Valley sign. Another alternative is we could create an entirely new sign instead of just refurbishing that. So that would be something that would mirror the new communications and branding of the ACRD. It could again incorporate land acknowledgement to that. And yet another option, because we don't want to limit you here, is that we could relocate the sign to the entrance from the west coast, because there is no entering the Alberni Valley from the other side when you're coming from the west coast. And there is quite a bit of signs on the incoming. So the easy one is that we'll refurbish the sign, but we've given you many options if you would like them.
Director Sparrow and then Director Boyko. I just couldn't tell if Director Boyko got the recording.
Thank you for that. This whole thing came about by somebody in my area asking about the sign probably 15, 18 months ago. It's been a while. It missed the last budget item because it didn't get put in the agenda. Anyway, and they said that the first thing you see coming the valley is a sign. It's getting to look old and tired and weathered and worn out. And it was put in by Glenn Wong back in the day, so it's been a few. 2008, I believe, I'm sending them report, so it is time to upgrade it, and all I asked for was to put back to, you know, look the paint and stop the cracking. And if we want to, in the future, get something that's reflective of the valley better, but it'd be good, but right now, it's just an old weather sign. If we go through and consider all the options, we could end up with a 25-year-old sign that looks really bad, so. I'm gonna go with the original consideration of this painting for now and maybe engaging others later on, better sign. So, that's where it all came from.
Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Dr. Boyko?
Thank you, Chair. So I got a couple of thoughts on this. The new sign in the Alberni in the city of Port Alberni was put in that spot because that is the start of Port Alberni and not the regional district. So if we come into town, the town splits before that and you only capture a certain portion of the people. So I think the sign's in the right spot. It's in the ACRD. If you're coming from Tofino, you already know you've been through Port Alberni and you're on your way out. I don't think that's really valid. If it looks like crap or looks unappealing, to be more friendlier with my wording, let's repaint it and move on with our lives. But $10,000 to repaint a sign that is the size of whatever big it is, 4 by 8 feet or 8 by 20 feet. I think that's a little bit high for a price. We're not painting the Mona Lisa here, and someone could probably do it for a lot more cost effectively. Thank you. Even if it's got to get taken down and removed and then put back up. But seriously, that's 2 guys in a truck and a couple bolts. Thank you.
Thank you for that question on that one. So it does have to get removed and we do have to take it into the sign shop. If it's in good shape and we can simply do basically a sandblast and repaint, then hopefully it will be that. But that's why we've given a $10,000 budget. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to cost that much, but we do think that we have enough money in the budget to complete that.
Dr. Haggard?
Thank you, Chair
Roth.
Jack. If they decide to move forward with refurbishing the sign and we want to include engagement with Hoopaches and Shuswap First Nations and add some cultural diversity to the sign, is that included in the cost of the $10,000 refurbishment? Or would that be an additional cost? Or we don't know at this point.
I think the answer is maybe yes, depending if there's enough room on the posts or pilings to move the sign up a bit. And then you make more room underneath. Jenny, go ahead.
We have a $10,000 budget.
Dr. Roth, go ahead.
Thank you. I think the sign is actually quite nice. It just needs to be refurbished. Can I make the motion that the Alberni Plain Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to proceed with the refurbishment of the Welcome to the Alberni Valley Highway sign?
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Siga. Any further comments? Comments, or were you voting?
No, I'm not voting yet.
Okay, Dr. Cote, go ahead.
So there's been a lot of controversy around this sign over the many years. It warms my heart to look at it when I come into the valley because it reminds me of past director Glenn Long, who brought this sign forward and had a bit of trouble funding it at the beginning, and yeah, people didn't like the concrete without rock on it, and there was all kinds of history to this, but I'd love to see it stay just because it reminds me of that director who did a lot for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cote. Yeah, I would echo that sentiment, given that Chairperson Wong was the chairperson of the regional district when Hooyet and Ucluelet joined. So special in our heart as well. Definitely supportive of this. Any further comments? Dr. Haggard, please go ahead.
I'm supportive of refurbishing the sign, but I would like to see some consultation with Hoopaches and Shuswap First Nations and have some cultural and land acknowledgements on the sign.
That would be great. I would add the NTC as well, because it seems like Shuswap and Hoopaches are very well represented both by the Port Alberni sign and the Chamber of Commerce setup. but there's no acknowledgement of all of the nations in the whole regional district. But I think it might be just that the Alberni Valley is home to the NTC offices, so maybe that's not a thing, but maybe just give Judy a call. I don't know. Dr. Roth?
You have to remember the speed that you're driving by the sign and what you can read. So, you know, I think 1 mile per or every 10 miles per hour in the old way of looking at it, not kilometers, was 1 inch of a font. So you can't put a lot on there.
Absolutely. Although the sign is a lot bigger than everyone thinks. If you actually get out and walk over to it, it's really big. Yeah. Okay, I think we've exhausted this. All those in favor of the motion? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. I'm thinking about Glenn. All right. Anyway, next item is item C, bylaw for temporary use permit exemption for agritourism. Finally there, Tanya. Okay. All right, please go ahead, Alex.
Thank you. So this is amendment to the development procedures bylaw to exempt temporary use permit application fees for agritourism, agritourism accommodation, and gathering for an event uses in the ALR on properties that have farm status through BC assessment and that comply with the Agricultural Land Commission regulations. The updated bylaw P1528 follows direction from the board that was given on the at the March 26th meeting. The zoning bylaw updates that would permit these uses in the ALR have been paused while the OCP updates are underway. And at this time, staff do recommend that the temporary use permit fee exemption would be an opportunity to support farmers in diversifying their operations in the meantime. So the public input process for a TUP would allow the community input on each application. And the TUP conditions can align with the regulations that are in the ALC regulations. So bylaw P1528 is a new bylaw that has been drafted to replace the existing development procedures bylaw. And the only change in that bylaw is found in Schedule A, where the TUP fees are listed and are now exempted. So staff recommend that the board give 4 readings to the bylaw. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Dr. Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just gonna read the motion here. Oh, hold on, I gotta go to the next page.
You can just say first reading, Dr. Boyko.
Yeah, I got it. Make a motion that bylaw P1528 development procedures and fees bylaw amendment 2025 be read a first time.
Seconded by, thank you, Dr. Roth. Hey, all those are, sorry, comments? No comments. Dr. Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. So this applies to simply just the temporary use permit, short-term vacation rental. Relaxation.
So this would be limited to the agritourism accommodation, agritourism, and gathering for an event uses in the ALR. So not necessarily the short-term rental TUPs, which is a mechanism that the board uses to deal with the Airbnbs in the region. This would be specific to those lands in the ALR that meet the Land Commission regulation.
Okay, thank you. So this includes agritourism activity, or how did you phrase that?
Yeah, so the agritourism activities that are listed in the Agricultural Land Commission rules include things like farm tours and tasting samples and things like that. They also allow agritourism accommodations, which allow for up to 10 sleeping units on a farm, and that could be a mix of campsites or bedrooms within a dwelling. And the board has issued a temporary use permit to allow for that in the past, and we do have some other active applications that are looking to do it as well.
So further, so on page 34, it's based on 2 to 5 agritourism applications per year. The reduced permit fees would be between 2,200 and 5,500 per year. Is that per unit or altogether?
Through the chair, that would be all together. So the temporary use permit is $1,100, which accounts for $500 for the advertising fee in the newspaper. So exempting that would be reducing the individual application fees by $1,100 per application dealt with agritourism.
Okay, just, my confusion is around that it's per year, so would that be that's every year rather than like 3 years for short-term vacation rental, temporary use permit?
Yeah, through the chair. So that would be a reduction in the anticipated application revenue that we would be getting. So if the
Right.
board deals with 5 of these applications in a year, the revenue would be reduced by $5,500 to the ACRD, but the applicant will be paying nothing for the application. And then the TUP can be valid for up to 3 years, and they would have the opportunity to apply to renew that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? This is for first reading. Seeing none, all those in favor of first reading? All opposed? Motion carried. Do you want to continue, Dr. Boyka?
Yes, please, Chair. I'll do second reading.
You do have a seconder. Thank you, Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
I will do third reading.
Seconded by Dr. Roth. Thank you. Comments? All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
And finally, adoption.
Seconded by Dr. Roth. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you
Okay.
for supporting the farmers in the area.
That is that. And thank you for sitting through all this, Tanya. Alrighty, so that brings us into planning matters, which I think there are 3. Yeah, let's stick around for it. 9.1A is a temporary use permit for Long Beach. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is a temporary use permit application to allow for the short-term rental of a secondary suite located within the applicant's home in the Millstream area. The board did consider this application the first time on March 12th, where the board directed the regional district proceed with the neighbor notification process. That has now been completed and there was no public correspondence received. The ACRD building inspector also completed a walkthrough of the suite and did not identify any safety or health issues relating to the use of the suite as a rental. So all conditions appear to be satisfied, and staff recommend that the board issue TUP 24012. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Steer.
Yes, and through the chair, and I do recognize I will not be voting on this matter, but I did have a question for clarity on the use of the TUP in these particular incidences, and it may be my ignorance in terms of the process. Typically, my understanding of the TUP often is a bridge to, say, a rezoning application, and I'm wondering in this particular case, and it seems to be the with a lot of the short-term rentals that operate under TUP. I'm wondering if maybe you could explain if there is an intent for rezoning, or how does the TUP in terms of specifically short-term rentals working in this particular case?
Sure, through the chair. Thank you for the question, Director Steer. The intent at this point of the board's policy that the board has adopted to consider these by TUP isn't necessarily to look as a bridge to rezoning, because if you rezone a property as a commercial use, then you know that the board loses the ability to apply conditions that would otherwise be in the TUP. So as it stands right now, the board will consider these applications as a TUP a first time. The TUP is valid for 3 years. It can be renewed for an additional 3 years, after which the applicants are either needing to apply for a new TUP, whether the conditions have changed slightly, or look at a permanent rezoning or a more permanent rezoning of the property. So it has been the board's direction since the policy was adopted in 2018. I think it is worth revisiting that, and we've had a few conversations around looking at the policy again, and I expect that we'll have an opportunity to revisit that through the outcome of the development approval process review project that's currently underway. Hopefully that answers your question in a roundabout way.
It does. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Great, thank you. Dr. Cote?
Thank you. This is an issue that I've brought forward to the regional district regarding these short-term vacation rental accommodations. I see a huge difference between someone who has a secondary suite in their primary residence as opposed to someone who, in the next application, is a purpose-built or a purpose-bought short-term vacation rental. I see that when we first discussed having these short-term vacation rentals, that having a temporary use permit was to allow for residents, permanent residents, to actually have a option for a mortgage helper or assistance so that they could actually live in their community and provide a secondary accommodation because we don't have that many hotels or those type of accommodations available. So because I brought that forward and asking that the regional district could possibly relax the fee for this to half cost for someone who it is their primary residence, would this affect this this short-term vacation rental application in the future? If we approve it now and say 6 months down the road, we bring in a different fee system where it could be just half price for someone who's a permanent resident. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly through the chair, that's a great question, and you know, we will be preparing a report for more discussion on that with the board. Now, the impact on active TUPs that have been issued by the board, we have a clause in the TUPs that allows the board the opportunity to rescind a temporary use permit or to go through a process to do that. I don't see that the changing the process in which the board considers these applications or changing the fee structure after a TUP has been issued would merit rescinding a TUP. But again, that would be up to the board, and we would be seeking some direction from the board on that when we look at considering some changes to the policy.
Thank you for that. Dr. Siga?
Thank you. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to comment to this. I see a real big difference as well between having somebody living locally who's trying to stay in the community and living on a tourism wage, and having their income supplemented through tourism, which the money stays in the community. Whereas you have some, I'm aware of one person who has 5 different temporary use permit suites who do not live locally, and the money is not staying in. So somehow in the regulations, hopefully through the OCP, we can deal with that. But for the purposes of this, I would like to put forward the motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors issue temporary use permit TUP 24-1-240.
Thank you. Seconded by Dr. Roth. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. That brings us into item 9.1B, another temporary use permit for Sport Lake.
Thank you very much. So this TUP would allow for the short-term rental of an entire house located at 10404 Marina Vista Drive in the Sport Lake area. The STR would be limited to an occupancy of 4 guests in a 2-bedroom house to meet the servicing needs of the strata development that this house is located within. And the TUP includes conditions for caretaker availability, off-street parking, and noise bylaw provisions to limit the impact on the neighborhood. The Sproat Lake Advisory Planning Commission reviewed this application at their last meeting at the beginning of April, where the APC did pass a recommendation to support the TUP subject to the neighbor notification process. And the applicant's meeting all of the conditions that are outlined in the TUP, which includes a safety inspection by the building inspector as well. So at this time, staff recommend that the board proceed with the public input process, which will include a mail out to the lots within the strata, the neighboring mobile home park, and residential and commercial properties within 100 meters of this property. And any correspondence received from the public would be presented to the board prior to consideration for a final decision on the TUP. happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Through the chair to the board. This was, had a healthy conversation with the APC. Because this is one of those homes that was bought as a rental. The people do not live in the community. All the money goes out. They won't be coming in to use this house in the future, from what it sounded like. When this subdivision was first put in, there was a lot of conversation from debate from the community saying that they didn't want to be living next door to these short-term vacation rentals. The subdivision they peeled this top piece off and made 9 lots with more affordable housing. So that was the intent, that I believe was that people could afford to live at Sprout Lake. And they were more affordable housing, not built for short-term vacation rentals. That said, the other piece of property that's there is commercial, and there could be a hotel there. Right to it, right next to it. Yes, in front of it on the lakeside, or still on the upland, but so is this, it's concerning that this whole piece of property then is going to turn into commercial rentals. And when it was supposed to be making affordable accommodations for people to live at Sprout Lake. But with knowing that there's commercial right in front of it, I'm really interested to know what the neighbors, because they were objecting in the beginning, like years ago. Because I've been around so long, I've been part of this process, so I remember what happened through the public hearing sessions and what the concerns were from the community. And this is really driving it home that this was part of their concerns. So my question to staff is then, if the neighboring community is objecting to this short-term vacation rental application, will it be turned down, or does it just say, oh, well, people are not happy with it, like a NIMBY thing, or how do we deal with this? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for that question. The if the board proceeds with the neighbor notification process, as I mentioned, we would be mailing it out to everybody within 100 meters, which does include the mobile home park to the east, which I know had historically had some concerns with this development. Now we would, as staff, we would be gathering public comments and letters, and we would be presenting that all in a new package to the board a month from now, where the board would be making a decision on whether to proceed with the temporary use permit or whether to defer a decision on it and invite the applicants to speak to the board directly. If the board was considering denying the application, that has been the board's practice, is to invite the applicants to address the board directly. But I think from a process view, from our standpoint, if we proceed with the neighbor notification, we would be, as staff, we would be engaging with the neighbors and the public as they phone and email us their concerns if they had any, and then we would be presenting all of that as one package to the board to consider.
So this will be coming back to the board?
Yeah, so the language that's here is to consider issuing it, which means there's a process that starts. So the consideration of the issue starts after this decision. But I think part of it is you can just not consider it and just not do it. So you can save time by doing that if you're willing to bet that. But if you're not, I would, yeah.
We're 10 years out from the past, so I would like to see what the appetite is of the neighborhood at this particular time, knowing that there is commercial in front of this piece of property that could include rentals that would be allowed. I don't think they even need a temporary use permit to be able to do that on that piece of property. So I would like to make the recommendation then that the Board of Directors consider temporary use permit application TUP 24008, subject to the following. health and life safety inspection by the ACRD building inspector. And neighborhood notification as per the Local Government Act, making sure that if there's objections that the board will hear them. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. And comments, Dr. Boyko?
Thank you, Chair. It sounds like something that's fairly controversial, and I agree that we should have a more detailed look at it. This is also one of the reasons that the APC meetings should be, we should get full minutes and be able to watch the video and see what the conversations were like. And if it was a detailed conversation, the other directors should be able to see it if they were not able to attend the meeting in another area, because now we're voting on something and having more information would always be good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Director Boyko. And Dr. Siga, go ahead.
Thank you. We're going to be putting more resources into this application, and there's no guarantee that this will be returned to our community, right? So the actual investment in getting community feedback is at our expense, when we're not going to get much benefit in terms of taxation. I'm sorry, I can't support that.
I don't think it's that expensive to send out mail. I think the parcel still has to pay property tax. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'll also highlight that they have paid an application fee that includes $500 for the neighbor notices, and that's the one ad in the newspaper that's required for a temporary use permit, and then the notices that are mailed out to everybody within 100 meters. It's an average cost, but certainly the applicants have paid a fee for that.
Dr. Boyko?
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I forgot to ask a question there. So the way this is wording is they currently are renting this right now up to 8 people at a time. And I assume there was some kind of neighborhood complaint, and now it's gone to bylaw, and now they're looking to do a temporary use permit. Am I following the steps correctly there? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, yes, that's the basis of the application. They had previously rented it for an occupancy of 8, and after speaking with staff and looking at the building plans and going through the process, they have agreed to reduce the occupancy to 4, which is the intended occupancy of a 2-bedroom home in that area.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks. So it's been moved and seconded. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. So. Okay, so that brings us to item C. Last item in planning is another, report and permit. Please go ahead, Alex, for Sprout Lake.
Thank you very much. This is a development variance application for a property at 18440 Pacific Rim Highway in Sprout Lake. The variance would reduce the required lot width and the building setback from a minor water course to facilitate the 2-lot subdivision of the property. The board considered this application the first time on March 26, where the board resolved to proceed with that public input process. A notice to neighboring residents and property owners was mailed on April 4th, and no correspondence has been received. But this time, staff recommend that the board proceed with issuing the development variance. Thank you.
Thank you. I would move that the Alberni Boycott Regional District Board of Directors issue development variance permit DVD 25002.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments or questions? I had one academic question, just because I don't have the application there in front of me. When someone does this subdivision and they're looking for a reduction in the width, do they have to make an application just for the new piece, or do they have to do it for both? I guess it depends on the math, right?
Yeah, it's worded for each of the proposed lots. So yeah, there's a reduction in the lot size for proposed lot 1 and lot 2 separately, and that's based on the subdivision plan that they've surveyed out and applied for. You know, if they were to make changes to those lot lines and make one lot wider and another lot narrower, they would be applying for a second development variance. The board would be considering that again.
Thank you. Okay. Any relevant questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, with that in mind, we go into item 10.1, staff reports. Would anyone like to pull anything out? Director Beckett, please go ahead, and then Director Sparrow.
There, sorry. I think I just want to pull out 10A meeting schedule. Unless I'm missing something, we don't show the May 28th meeting, which is a very special meeting that the House of Hawaiian will be hosting, Mayor Jack.
Yes, I am part of a conversation to help set that up, so it should be on the schedule. I think it's just not there either because of an typo or because I forgot to reply to an email, but it is still the plan to host the meeting, yes. Okay, Director Steer.
Yeah, I think Director Beckett brought that up. Yeah, the irony is I'm going to be working in Banfield on the 28th, so I'm just going to zip over to Annapolis. So I was really hoping that it was going to still be. I didn't see it on the schedule, so I'm really glad to hear that. So thank you.
And Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm looking at the what district I call it building inspectors report. And it seems pretty barren for the month of March. Is it just slowing down or what's going on?
Yeah, we have 13 building permits issued to date this year, which is at a much slower pace than what we've experienced the last number of years, last 5 years or so. I will say that we do have a lot of applications that are that have come in the last month, so I expect those numbers to increase. But you know, it's any combination of the uncertainty of the world right now and just where the economy's at. But I do expect, like I said, to see more numbers in the spring here as building starts to pick up.
Thank you. Would anyone like to move to receive the reports? Thank you, Director Johnson, seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. All right, that brings us to 10.2 committee reports. These are verbal reports. First up is the Agricultural Development Committee dated April 15th.
Thank you. I'll take that one.
Please go ahead.
So good agricultural development meeting, lots of attendance. We did submit a motion. We talked about the motion that was not presented at the AVICC due to time regard ferry boarding. We'd like to pass a motion to the board that we're going to talk about to get it presented at the UBCM. So however we need to do to get that done, we have a month or two to get that ready, but we'd like to pass it on to UBCM. Heritage pumpkin seeds are available at the Spirit Square Farmers Market from award-winning pumpkin from a decade ago. There's still some available. Please make use and do the best you can. Outdoor music should be available at Spirit Square Farmers Market, and they are always looking for more grant funding. We had a good discussion regarding grant funding, potential collaborative efforts in the future between different parties. The Dock Plus upgrade is ongoing down by the waterfront there, and always looking for more work there. The space is quite well used, and that's good to see. This concern for increased water fees for water licenses on waterfront properties, increasing on foreshore leases as well. Homestead Market at Beaver Creek Hall is happening April 26th. I think that's this Sunday coming up. Please come on out and support local agriculture. And that's just the meeting. The next meeting for them is July 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is oh, go ahead, Dr. Cote.
Thank you. Further to that, there was a conversation I had with our CAO regarding the resolution for the agricultural priority loading for livestock. It's probably better than waiting for September for UBCM because it's going to be kicked back because it's a regional issue to AVICC, which puts it to a year out. It's recommended that we request a meeting with Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Transportation and BC Ferries to discuss this issue. So I'll leave it with Daniel to make those that request going forward, but yeah, I would recommend that because it's going to be a long ways out. Thanks.
Director Cote, do we just want to do a motion to make sure it does happen?
I can make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Boyko, you had a comment? Would you like to second that motion as well?
I'll second the motion, but we just had our MLA here like an hour ago. Why don't we just talk to her and get her to help us out with that too? That makes things a lot easier, her office.
Yeah, I'll text her and talk to Andrea for sure.
Thank you, but I'll second it.
All right, any further comments? Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Okay, so that's it for the Agricultural Development Committee report. Next up is the Alberta Valley Regional Airport Advisory Committee meeting. We're not done the item B yet. Yeah. Who's reporting for item B? Please go ahead, Dr. Cote.
Okay, thank you. We had a tour of the Colson's facilities at the Avra. Really good meeting. It's impressive what they've got going there. And I can't say enough about the programming that they've got going. They've been recognized but with awards from what they're doing for fire training for equipment, engineers. They physically fabricate parts at their facility. They have a school that's happening there. They have a training session where they actually go into the schools starting at grade 6, 7, targeting youth, presenting what an aviation career could look like. They've got students that are going to Colson's in grade 12. So rather than going through grade 12 at ADSS, they are going to Colson's and they're completing their year there. They're getting training on everything to a much higher standard than what is you could get at BCIT or other facilities, schools. They talked about extra tickets, like so when you've got your aviation ticket, when your graduation, you're going to have tickets for man lifts, and so that you can actually move the parts around and actually complete the jobs. I was really impressed with what they've got going out there, and their expansion plans. We didn't have time for completion of the tour, so I'm hoping that we'll get back out there. But everything is moving ahead with the way that we're planning, so great job. Maybe Jen could add anything? Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, I think that's very comprehensive, and we will try to do more tours, not just at the airport and do more tours for the Thunderbird Crew facility and all the other leaseholders that are there, but also we're trying to do that this year and setting that up for the landfill and everything else for the committees.
All right, thank you for the report. What I understand, Colson, they employ like over 200 people, is that correct? Yeah, so I remember going on a flight on Porter, and I said they had a few extra seats, so they had staff taking up the seats. One was an aircraft mechanic, and we were going to Toronto. That's where he lived. But he said, "Oh, you're from the island. Do you know Port Alberni?" Well, I worked there. That was my first job. So there's a lot of good examples of good work that's going on with that company. And I think Brit's doing a pretty good job. I worry though that many employees, and if they're expanding or if they're, what's the plan for housing, right? So those are the kind of things that that are kind of piquing my interest, but I think that's something that's more of a region-wide conversation, not just where it is. So yeah, it's exciting to see what happens there. Any further comments? Go ahead.
You know, so it was my first meeting. airport there. So one of the things that Colson did say, he's going to, not doing this school, but other schools, he went to follow from that. Talk to them too, to try and get them all in this area too, so. He's got a 80,000 square foot building, and they're doing the foundation there. So with all the rain we've been having, they've been finding the low spots where the drainage goes, so they're solving that problem right off the hop. But yeah, he wants to expand, and after that building is built, I think he's looking at still building, so it's basically, it's gonna be a thriving thing, and he got more operations in New Zealand and Australia right now too, and California, so this is the hub, and he's gonna try to make it the hub, so we're lucky.
Alrighty, so with that, could we have a motion to receive the reports, please? Thank you, Dr. Cote and Dr. Johnson. Any further comments? Last chance. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to 10.3 member reports. I think at the end of member reports, I'm going to throw in just an open, not an open mic, but an open opportunity for anyone to maybe give an update on their experience at ABICC and Nanaimo last week, before, something like that. Time has no meaning, Dr. Cote. Okay, we'll start with item A, 911 Corporation. Director Beckett, please go ahead.
No report, Mr. Chair. We did have an in-camera meeting that we cannot report on Rise On at this point in time.
Okay, thank you for that. Item B, Regional Library, Dr. Quico.
No update at this time. Next meeting is an audit committee meeting on May 16th. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Minions or Dr. Boyko? Oh, Dr. Minions is not here. Dr. Boyko, any update?
No update. I don't get invited to meetings. Thank you.
Okay. If you want me to send a letter, I can. Okay, Air Quality Council, Dr. Sparrow. Thank you for being here.
I need to sign out, but thank you. Goodbye.
Hey, there's no report at this time as we go through transitional period right now.
Okay, thank you. AVICC, Dr. Cote.
I'm still exhausted. We had a very successful AVICC convention. There was a survey that was put out at the end. We had elections, and I'm sorry, I don't have last names. I'm just looking up. Okay, Ben Gesselbrick is your president once again. Acclaimed Vanessa Craig, Vanessa, is your first vice. Sarah Fowler is your second. Will Cole Hamilton is director at large. Trina Gapping, Allison Gapping again. Those are your three directors at large. And Donna McMahon is your electoral area director. And I continue on as past president. I was hoping to get a break. No.
Because Ben was acclaimed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a huge job. I'm working all through the convention. There was no break when you're running an election, resolution sessions, and yeah, just out there way too much. I'm going to try and get out of some of my jobs for next year. I have one grievance. I missed the last executive meeting where they eliminated the bagpipes. And tradition, it saddened me greatly. So wherever I could, I put it in there without making too much of a fuss about it. But very disappointed. Anyways, thanks.
Thank you, Director Cote. Next up is Walken Public Advisory Group. Dr. Sparrow.
Thank you. We did have a meeting a week ago. We talked about the overview of harvesting and operational guidelines 2025 and discussion on tariffs, which is hard to do when it keeps going up and down, back and forth. So, and now it's going to impact how much it is. We went through the indicators, action review indicators, and we're discussing the ways to demonstrate the indirect and direct employment that is out there, and then how it can be correlated. Because indirect employment is like people here that deliver fuel out there for the operations, and how that can be cataloged and correlated if they can. So looking at all that, they're looking at the carbon cycle. We did a carbon cycle review and how it works, and that was very interesting. What they can capture and can't capture, and it's quite a bit they do miss in carbon captures. They only captures what they are known. It's an interesting Okay. Quite a bit of that. And they talk about the fuel consumed, the long living wood products, short living wood products that are in carbon capture and the carbon uptake. So all interesting stuff like that. And then they're going to have an all PAG meeting scheduled for April 24th. So it'll be all of them together, the head of West Reports and then somebody else. So like that this time. Thank you.
Like the local head of Western or like the CEO?
I think it's CEO. He's gonna be on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, Stephen Hofer then? Yeah, okay.
That's it.
I do, that is his name. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we'll do other reports for just, if you have anything to say about your attendance at AVICC, please go ahead. We'll go around. Dr. Johnson, please go ahead.
So I always attend for ACRD. I had a good time, but this was Tokwat's first attendance as new members, and unfortunately there was a potlatch, so both Dan and Kevin were not there, but Lisa Morgan was there, and I believe she had a good time. Hopefully more people will attend next year.
Lisa is a counselor? Yeah. Great. Dr. Siga? You didn't attend, did you? Dr. Roth? Did? Dr. Sparrow?
I did attend and did a few of the workshops. So I saw you one there talking about 21 things of Indigenous relations. That what it was? Was the speaker there? That was kind of interesting. No, a little hard to get to the one spot, but yeah. And did the health one in the morning. Definitely should have gone longer because it was action packed with all for the whole things that they're going to do things like that. So it was good. Pretty good. And hopefully the next UPCM in September, it should be in Victoria. So yes, I'll be fine.
Maybe we'll have Dr. Cote go last. Dr. Haggard, go ahead.
I wasn't able to attend the sessions this year, but I'm looking forward to watching the recordings. I heard it was a great conference.
Great. I'll go second last. So Marilyn, did you attend?
I definitely attended. It was great. I got there a day early so I could attend the pre-conference Nanaimo Revitalization and Reconciliation Tour. So that was a bus tour around Nanaimo, showing off some of their projects, some of which were done in conjunction with the Nanaimo band. And it was really, really interesting to Kotsa Notes. For me, that was actually the highlight of the conference, but the rest of it was great as well.
Thank you for that. Dr. Beckett, I don't think you were able to make it, were you? No? Hey, Dr. Steer, I remember seeing you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I think many of the highlights, many of the directors have pointed out. I think one of the areas of these regional conferences that I find valuable is the ability to those contacts that we make with individual other municipalities and local governments within the region, and have those discussions around areas of common interest where we can work together and collaborate. And some of the highest value that happens there. We also, when we could, we grabbed Minister Kenny, I believe it was, with her new portfolios and stuff. And so we grabbed Anderson. Sorry, we grab who we could grab on the fly. And so those are good introductions to be made and to further the interests of our particular local governments. But those regional conversations with our representatives, we all have very similar common interest, and this is a great opportunity to have. So we're not all recreating the wheel, and it's great to see friends again. So highly valuable.
Thank you. Lavanna, were you able to make it?
I was not able to make it. Sorry.
All right, thank you though. So I guess we'll go to mine before we go finish off with Penny. So I was traveling to Ottawa and back that week. So I was coming back from Ottawa on Friday. So I missed the pulling of the fire alarm, which was apparently very fun. It was during Don Lidstone's presentation. So I'm actually kind of convinced that maybe Don himself pulled the thing. He did come back and finish that. I thought Don Lidstone's presentation on legislative change and what to expect and how to get it done was really quite relevant, not just for inclusive governance, which is, I think, my baby, but for the fact that I think we really do need to work with the province or twist their arm on giving more tools, especially to regional districts and electoral area directors to make decisions up to a point where they're approaching a municipality without potentially encroaching on that territory. There's just a lot more responsiveness that is expected of all residents of electoral area districts. And I think just there needs to be a change. The thing was created in the late 60s and passed in the 70s. It does need to be updated, especially given in today's governance area. One thing I would suggest that perhaps we send a letter to ABICC about, and maybe spare Penny the grief, is to just ask that maybe the executive limit every regional district and municipality to 2 or 3 motions rather than the 7 or so that the Nanaimo City Council put forward. I know that it's a bit of a game, and I know that it used to be the CRD that was the worst for that. But with that, I think we really do need to take some time to really get to a point where we're discussing things that are of importance to everyone. I don't know what that looks like, though. I wouldn't voice that on anyone, much less everyone else. But I do think that we do need more time for resolutions, and resolutions that are perhaps more meaningful than some of the very, very local ones that are being put forward. Just I'm reminded of the BC Ferries agriculture livestock motion that actually seemed more relevant than a third or so of the resolutions that were actually put forward. So I just wouldn't mind putting that to the floor. And while I appreciated Ellie Mana in person, I think he spoke for too long. I think he lost the crowd, but you can't control for that if you don't know how the guy's going to talk. He did have a good message. I do like his materials. I'm going to keep those for sure. I thought the ABICC convention went really well, and I look forward to Victoria. And I think we're in good shape. So on to you, Director Coates, and please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. It was absolutely exhausting. Victoria next year. Nanaimo did a wonderful job once again hosting us. Really a lot of gratitude goes to Mayor and the regional district for what they did for our communities, hosting us there. The community healthcare solutions session was really a highlight, and everybody is saying that it was too short. We had 4 panels, which was a lot to be running through, too many speakers, but they did get their message across, and they were there for people to communicate with afterwards. A real highlight to me, I always support students coming. So we actually had 3 students that were able to access our free registration for them to attend. We don't pay for them to go to the banquet, but all of the sessions. We had one student at the end do a presentation about what she got out of it and how much she was encouraged by local governments, and really understanding that, you know, her generation is the future. It was great to hear from her. She was a good speaker too. Look forward to more students' involvement. Our keynotes were Keith Baldry and Bon Palmer. Some humor there, and everybody got to ask questions. They did a very short presentation, and then it was open to the floor, where I learned how to do Slido. Another thing I wasn't expecting. Yeah, hopefully we can all go to Victoria next year. Look forward to the bagpipes bringing us in, and tradition. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. I'm thinking maybe we have some conversations with the Indigenous folks. I think part of the reason the bagpipes were dropped for sensitivity purposes, but the conversations I had personally with the Indigenous attendees, they didn't really have a problem with it. So I think that's just a conversation we might be able to have, and then maybe talk to the executive about. Good.
A couple of years ago, when we were in Victoria, we were actually, the executive was paddled in at the beginning of the convention, and then at dinner, the bagpipes brought us the executive, which worked really well. There was some discussion as to how Nanaimo gets along with the Sammamish or whatever. We did have Elder Geraldine bless the beginning of the convention, but that was the extent of First Nation involvement as far as our executive. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Could we have a motion to receive the reports, please? Thank you, Director Johnson, Director Roth. All those in favor? The motion carried. So we don't have any unfinished business, although in late business, we do have one item. Hopefully we can get through this quickly. And I think this is for Jenny to talk about. It's free transit fares for Election Day. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we're just hoping to promote and encourage people to go and vote on Monday, 28th. And so we've got two resolutions, one for the West Coast Transit System, which will allow us to waive the fares, and one for custom transit. And we do feel that that will encourage people to ride transit. It'll be a nominal loss of revenue. And also we have a third resolution to for us to consider going back and updating the bylaws so that we can make this a permanent resolution, but we don't need to do that. We can also do this as an ad hoc basis, but those are the three resolutions before you. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So they should be treated as separate resolutions then? Okay. All right. Director Sparrow?
Do you want to question every motion individually or just ask questions ad hoc? Okay, the only one that is the last one. It says here, allow free transit on local, provincial, or federal election voting days. And so what is a local election? I mean that because we have regional board, we have civic, and I have an improvement district, which technically is local. Yeah. And then there also are other ones around here which could be considered local. So can we define local as we go along so we understand what we're talking about?
That's a great question. And if you pass that resolution, we will look into that and get back to you with details.
Okay. I do think local government is defined in the Local Government Act though, and it is municipal and regional district for sure. And improvement, but it's all on the same day, I thought. Aren't they? No? Improvement districts are different. Okay, so we'll have to make that distinction. All right, thank you. Okay, any further comments or questions or motions? Director Johnson, please go.
In order to get the free trip, do you have to prove that you're going to vote?
No, we will be waiving fees on that day. Yeah, and it is in an effort to promote voting.
Okay. Would anyone like to move the motion? Thank you, Director Rowe. As stated, first motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors approve free transit fares for the Alberni Valley Custom Transit System for the federal election on April 28, 2025. So moved by Dr. Roth, seconded by Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. The next motion is that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors approve free transit fares for the West Coast Transit System for the federal election on April 28th, 2025. Would anyone like to move that? Dr. Roth and Dr. Johnson. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? The motion carried. And then the last one is that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to investigate amending bylaws to allow for free transit on all local, provincial, and federal election voting days, and to properly define what local government means for the purposes of this change. Director Roth, seconded by Director Cote. Okay, any further comments? Director Cote, please go ahead.
I have a question about, we've already passed the custom transit, but we're looking at providing transit for people to vote, and there's quite a number of people. Will we be having all of the buses out so that we can accommodate? Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
We will do our best. And because we've had advanced voting as well, I think a lot of people have really taken that opportunity to use that. So we will do our best. We will be limited with our capacity.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, question period. Are there any comments or questions? Because we have no gallery in the email inbox.
So we have not received in the email inbox. However, we have received for questions or comments in the Zoom.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so all four were received from Mike Lasowski. And the first one is, with the crime rate increasing in the city well above the provincial average, how many are repeat offenders? The second, with these increased crime rates happening in Port Alberni, how many of these incidents are being committed by those considered as homeless? Third one, if the majority of the incidents are being committed by those claiming mental illness, why is the Ministry of Health not chipping in for the added policing, as it seems they are here because of their placement from the ministry? And the final one, the sign coming down the hump should be refurbished and the area be cleaned up. The sign in front of Walmart is an embarrassment.
I think the sign in front of Walmart's awesome, but that being said, thank you for the questions. I don't think we can come up with the answers to at least the first two without coming back to Inspector Bruce. So, yeah, the Director Sparrow and then Director Haggard.
Just a question, you're gonna write a letter to the ABICC regarding the length, the amount of motions the area can make? Do you want that as a motion, or do you want to just ad hoc it? Because I was thinking if they want to make more than, say, 4 recommendations before, they put them as late items, and they can figure which 4 is the best for, and that way they still get a chance to put it in if there's enough time.
I have opinions on that, but I think a motion would be great. Would you like to make that motion?
Whatever I said.
Whatever he said. I mean, seconded by Director Roth. Do we want to settle on 3 per jurisdiction?
Sure. And then go into late items or when we couldn't get in because.
Director Kotek.
Thank you. So I've been dealing with this with UBCM and with ABICC. UBCM has been asking for area associations to pare down to maybe 5 each. So this is years going of the request for that. The problem is every time there's an election, we get new people in and they all want to bring something forward from their election platform. And or they start developing one while they're elected. We're at the halfway mark. And yeah, it's interesting what the resolutions, what people, they finally realize that they can put in resolutions and they want to do it. And it's their, they feel it's their obligation, that it's their right to be able to do that. ABICC is looking at that, and we'll be putting forward a recommendation to our membership to try and focus on certain resolutions and actually try to work together with all our membership so that we have like 3 key messages that we want to get through to the province, because the province is saying too many, it gets watered down too much. None of them have a priority. So we are aware of that. You can make your resolution or your recommendation if you want, that's fine, but they're working on it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Would anyone like to second? All right, you did? Okay. Okay, Director Haggard, then Director Steer.
This is on response to some of Mike's questions, so you want me to wait until this is dealt with?
Yeah. Okay, Director Steer.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Penny pretty much spoke to, we've had this discussion about resolution reform at ABICC and UBCM. This is a topic of conversation that I know that ABICC is dealing with. I think there are some real possibilities for reform, and specifically on the resolution process. But I'll leave that in Penny's good hands to have that discussion with the executive of the ABICC. And if there is a possibility for that further conversation, certainly I know that the ACRD would be an active participant in those conversations.
Yeah, I don't know. Penny, do you have any comments on that?
We're working on it. Trying to find priorities for everyone to agree to is always hurting cats, but we're going to try. And UBCM might be coming forth with some way to try and streamline things. There's different categories too, like there's regional that UBCM kicks back to the area associations if it's regional. But we don't really have any ability to deal with most of it. So the way that UBCM is.
Yeah. Just to supplement that, I think it's important that we identify the problem as being too many resolutions right now, and then we'll have a discussion about how we pare them down. My idea would be to empower the executive of the ABICC just to like wield the machete. Just, yep, thanks for the resolution. We're not going to talk about it. Yeah, I just want them to be able to do that. And then there's actual consequences to voting for the executive. That's me. I may be willy-nilly about it. Dr. Cote, and then we'll go to a vote.
So late resolutions that came forward, we axed them all. Because they weren't late. Or they weren't emerging.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the emerging criteria for the UBCM is a good template, so I think that's a good way to deal with it. Okay, so with that, we'll have a motion akin to there are too many motions, resolutions at the ABICC. We're going to complain about it. We want a solution. It'll start the conversation, hopefully. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Dr. Haggard.
Thank you. I was going to mention this earlier after Inspector Bruce's presentation, but it was going a little bit long, so I didn't. In response to Mike's inquiry about we asking the province to help pay for RCMP and firefighters, the city of Port Alberni is advocating very heavily to get community crisis response teams, and they will be the ones responding to those mental health calls that RCMP and firefighters currently respond to. So hopefully we can get that, and that will alleviate some of the strain on the RCMP and firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you for that. It really helps. Okay. Would you like to move to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Johnson. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great day.